Hi, this is Susie Essman, and you're watching Comedy Matters TV.
Hey, it's Jeffrey Gurian here for Comedy Matters TV here in the Gotham Comedy Club with Susie Essman. Hi, Suze. How are you?
Hi, Jeffrey. I'm a little sleepy.
Yeah? But you don't look sleepy. Your energy is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
Oh, I'm in the zone now.
Well, you did a great show.
Thank you. You know, it was interesting to do live. I mean, I don't remember the last time I did live TV. It's always live to tape. And I'm trying to think if I ever did live TV. I don't think I have.
I was going to ask you that. I know, because it's an unusual thing. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to do live, and it's a whole different ball game, right?
Yeah.
Well, first, there's no editing, obviously.
Exactly, and I'm used to, you know, so what I was really worried about was time, because I was supposed to do 8 to 9 minutes, and usually, okay, so you do 11 minutes and they cut it, and it's 8 to 9 minutes, so I was really concerned about that because I didn't want to go over, because then I'm taking away from the other comedians. So that was making me a little crazy. You know, these things that you've been on stage 10 million times, but there's always something new thrown at you.
So how did they communicate with you? Did you have an earpiece in, like when they were telling you, like, you have a minute to wrap?
Dave Wasserman, who I've worked with for, you know, I worked with him like 20 years ago. He had, you know, 2 minutes, 30 seconds rap, you know, a little card.
Oh, on cards. I was wondering, because I was sitting, I couldn't tell how they were communicating with you. But was it more stressful, or?
It wasn't more stressful. It was just different. It was just something different in my head that I was thinking about. And, you know, as I was doing it, the clock in my head said, you know what, this is less time than you thought it was, and I threw in another bit. Just somehow, I just knew that what the time was, even though I had no idea how I knew.
Which only comes from stage time.
Right.
To know what you can fit in a certain amount of time. A newcomer could never do. You have to have so much stage time to be able to manipulate while you're on stage, because it's happening so fast.
Right.
There's no time to think, right?
Right. It's happening so fast, and you're on live television.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, but it's always like that on stage, where, you know, I'll be, you know how I usually work the crowd, which I didn't do today because it's on TV. But you know, usually as I'm working the audience, I'm totally present talking to them, but there's a little file going through my head. Did I do this material? I didn't do that material. What can I do next? I could take this and I can go there. So you're always in two places at once when you're on stage.
But what's interesting is it takes so long to get to that point where you're present on stage. In the beginning, when you're a newcomer, you're worried about a million things. You're thinking about stuff. You're not really present for what you're saying. Only a professional can plan or change what they're going to do while they're actually performing. That's like a great talent.
You know, there's nothing like, listen, I've been doing this for close to 30 years. I would hope that I figured it out by now.
Exactly.
It's interesting because I was talking, Mika Brzezinski's doing a new book, and it's about women and their body image and things. And she interviewed me for it, and we were talking about, she asked me if I think about what I look like on stage. And it never occurs to me what I look like. I look in the mirror before I go on stage. I make sure I look good, but I'm too busy. I don't have room in my head when I'm on stage for any kind of self-consciousness about what I look like. There's just no place. There's no room.
Can I just squeeze in that you look great?
Well, thank you. I make sure I look good before I go on. But once I'm on, I can't be thinking about, you know, do I look fat in these jeans? I can't be thinking. I got too much going on in my head. Yeah.
You know who I ran into recently? Paul Herzik. And it reminded me of the story where you started. This guy found you at Comedy U, right? Comedy U, right?
There's a number of people that say they discovered me. Paul Herzik and Burt Levitt actually did. Right? Yeah, they actually did.
And if I remember correctly,
when I was at, the first time I ever got on stage was an open mic at a place on Carmine Street called Mostly Magic. And Paul and Burt were there. And I did not know that I was going to be a comedian at that time. I did it on a dare, and I got up, and they were there, and they came over to me afterwards, and they said, we're opening up a comedy club, and we really liked you. Would you like to come work at a club? I was like, yeah, sure. And I gave them my number. I never.
It's the first time on stage.
Yeah,
right?
and I never got up on stage again. And then about 3 months later, they called me, hi, we opened up the club. You want to come down and do 10 minutes? And me being an idiot, because I didn't understand what 10 minutes was, I said, yeah, okay. I didn't have 10 minutes. I didn't have 10 minutes. So I sat down and I wrote 10 minutes. You know, most of it was not that great. But they kept on hiring me and kept on hiring me. And I worked exclusively at their club for 6 months. I never went uptown to the uptown clubs. And I still contend today, if it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would have become a comedian because, you know what it was like. The Uptown, you got to take a number and you had to audition and it was so competitive. And I couldn't deal with it. But these guys, they had these great downtown audiences and it would be like gay guys and NYU kids and really hip. And they just took me under their wing and nurtured me and gave me tons of stage time and let me grow as a comedian. That's where I met Joy. And
you've been friends ever since.
Ever since, yeah, we've been best friends ever since. But so I really do think that without them, I don't know what would have happened to me.
Well, you were doing characters in those days, right? A lot. I mean, I think you thought that you'd be a comedic actress. Was your plan?
My idol when I was growing up was Carol Burnett. And that's what I thought I was going to do, was sketch comedy. So that's who I thought but then I realized being around comedians that I had to find my own voice.
Right, because you were talking in characters,
right.
if I remember correctly.
I just did characters, that's right. I never spoke in my own voice. And then I realized I had to speak in my own voice. It's interesting because when young comedians, I think what I'm known for most is working an audience. And it didn't come naturally to me. And
it's a hard thing to do.
But it was something that once I started doing it and I figured out how to do it, I took to.
Well, it's almost like a conversation, like we're ad-libbing right now.
Right.
Doing that to an audience, though, is a whole different thing.
Right.
You know, that's a real art form. Jimmy Brogan used to do.
Yeah.
And where are you from, sir?
Yeah.
Right? And until somebody put him on to a big audience, he was never doing well. Because at 3 in the morning for 6 drunks, no one answered where you're from.
Right.
So it's a difficult thing to do.
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing because there's an art to working them, but also weaving your material. And that's the way that you have to do it. You have to work them, and it's because a lot of times you get stuck working them and you don't get back to your material. So that's the trick, is to be able to do both.
You knew Jeff Garland from the early strip days, is that correct? When you guys first became friends?
Yeah.
And you developed a character on Curb that people just love. I mean, Susie Green is in everybody's heart. Everybody loves Susie Green. Do you think there'll be a 9th season?
I have no idea.
Nobody knows, eh?
It's up to Larry. As of now, you know, there isn't, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be. You know, Larry is somebody I never second guess and try to see what's going on in his head, because I can't. I pray there'll be a 9th season.
Have you been on all 8?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
You were there from the beginning.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What a phenomenal run. How fun is that? How fun is that to be on a show like that? Right?
It's the most fun. And, we have so much fun shooting that show. And I just feel... I feel incredibly privileged to be on that, to be on a show. You know, it's great to have a job in this business, a job on TV where you make money, but to be on a show that I would actually watch, that I could be proud of, that I just think is so brilliant. I just feel like the luckiest girl in the world.
Yeah, it's not just the job, it's a labor of love. You're there, you're having a good time. And a lot of it is improv, am I correct?
It's all improvised. The entire thing's improvised.
So when you do like a scene, how many takes might you do for something?
You know, we have an outline and we know what each scene is about. Each scene has about a paragraph saying what it's about. It varies. It depends on the scene. I would say, in general, and this is a generalization, it usually takes us about 7 takes to figure out what the scene is. We're meandering around, and then we say, okay, this is what the scene is, and then we kind of set it. Not necessarily set what we're going to say, but set where we're going and what we're doing. And then we do a number of takes for coverage.
So you do get a chance to do a number of takes.
Yeah, well, we have to, because we need a lot of coverage, because editors need a lot of coverage, because it's improvised and it's got to be 30 minutes, so we need a lot of coverage.
I remember a story that you told me that I find very endearing. In the beginning, your first weekend spot at the Strip, you were very nervous, and Jerry Seinfeld told you that you were funny. And it meant a lot to you.
Yeah, well,
he said, "Why are you nervous? You're so funny." And you're like, "Jerry Seinfeld told me I'm funny." Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, Jerry was a big supporter of mine very early on. He had me open for him when he was headlining at Caroline's, and he was always very good to me. Yeah, but, you know, I'm still nervous, so it didn't really help.
Isn't that interesting, though, after so many years? You can still feel it like an amount of anxiety before you go on stage.
Yeah.
Do you rehearse for a show like this?
No. Well, a show like this where I had to do a short set, I put the set together. But if I'm headlining, you know, here on a weekend, no, I don't rehearse. I have no idea what I'm going to do till I get up there. I usually try to figure out what my opening is, because bye, Drew. Okay, because I feel a lot of anxiety if I don't know what I'm opening with. But from my opening on, I have no idea what I'm doing. This, because it was live and I had to do 8-9 minutes, I had to figure out the set that I was doing. I couldn't just go and wing it.
So what's coming up for you? What are you working on these days?
You know, I got a lot of stand-up coming up. I have an independent film out that's going to be on next Tuesday. It's going to premiere at the JCC on Amsterdam in '76. It's called Putzel. It's a really cute film.
You started it? You wrote it? What?
No, I was cast in it. I play a part. It's about like a Barney Greengrass kind of family on the Upper West Side that owns a fish store. Yeah. And I, you know, just, you know me, Jeffrey. I'm always out doing this, that, the other thing, whatever. Things, right. Yeah.
Do you tour? Do you go around the country, or do you stay mostly in New York?
I stay mostly in New York, but actually I've been traveling. I was just last weekend. I was at the Traverse City Comedy Festival that Jeff Garland, my television husband, and Michael Moore created, and that was a lot of fun. And the week before that, I was in Vail, Colorado, and the week before that, I was in Milwaukee. So I travel. I have a gig coming up in London, which I'm really looking forward to.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And wherever you go, do people ask you to call him a fat fuck?
Absolutely. That's the universal across the country, across the world.
And you came up with that, right?
Yes, I proudly say I came up with that.
How amazing. Well, I have to tell you, you did such a wonderful interview for the book. We did a book called Make 'em Laugh about the history of the comic strip.
Here it is.
Yeah, and Susie's in here on page 79. It's a great book about the 35-year history of the comic strip and all the stars. Isn't it amazing? It's the only club that's still around after, well, it opened in 1976, so it's actually their 36th year and still going strong. And it's amazing. And you gave me such great stories and fabulous stuff.
And we all miss Lucian, who is the creative director of the club, who left us and is in comedy heaven.
Much too young, right? And you remember how Lucian never needed anybody to have a conversation. You could start the conversation and then go on vacation.
Talk to the wall.
Still be talking. And there was like a signal where like you'd save your friends if they were stuck, you know? Like I think you even told that story in here.
One night Joe Bolster, who's a great comedian, he saw I was stuck talking to Lucian. So he comes over, he says, Susie, there's a phone call for you. And so I said, oh, okay, thanks. It wasn't a phone call for me. It was just to make it. And I got up and then Lucian grabbed Joe. It's like Joe did me a favor, and then Joe was stuck.
Well, you know, the great story about Joe that he told was that he missed his second set one night. And you know how Lucian was, if you missed the set, God forbid. So he said he had a girl in an apartment, and they got involved, and he wound up missing the set. So when he came back, he was in a panic, and Lucian said, Mr. Bolster, why did you miss your set? And he tells him that the girl had a seizure. And Lucian said, Petite mal or grand mal? He wanted to know.
That was Lucian.
That was Lucian. He wanted to know the symptoms, right?
Yeah, he was very detail-oriented.
Very detail-oriented, yeah. Well, I just want to tell you, you were wonderful tonight. It was so great to see you.
Pleasure to see you.
Always so good to see you. How's Jimmy?
Jimmy's great.
Yeah, send him my best.
I will.
Okay?
All right.
Cool.
Thanks.